1 Thessalonians chapter 4, and I want to read verse 3 and 4. And I hope if you don't have that love for the Word of God that you'll work hard on developing it, because I like it when the scripture reading is done during worship. I love it when Tad explains a portion of the Word to us. I love having the Word read to me on my iPhone. I love just reading the Word, and I hope that you'll work hard in growing that kind of a love for it, because it is so powerful to help us against temptations of different kinds. But listen to what 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 says. For this is the will of God, your sanctification, that is, that you abstain from sexual immorality, and that each of you know how to possess his own vessel in sanctification and honor. Boy, we could preach just on that verse, but I want to move on to Matthew chapter 15. And we'll come back to these verses, but I just want to kind of get them out there so they're on our minds. In Matthew chapter 15, I want to begin at verse 17. Do you not understand that everything that goes into the mouth passes into the stomach and is eliminated? But the things that proceed out of the mouth come from the heart, and those defile the man, for out of the heart comes evil thoughts, murders, adulteries, fornications, thefts, false witnesses, and slanders. It's out of our minds, it's out of our hearts that those things come from, and other people too. Now, go over to Matthew 22 and look at one verse with me here. You know it. I'm surprised that some of the kids don't use it for a memory verse. Verse 37 says, and he said to him, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. Wow. One more, 1 Corinthians chapter 6. We just finished a study in 1 Corinthians, and it was fantastic. Beginning at verse 17 here. But the one who joins himself to the Lord is one spirit with him. Flee immorality. Every other sin that a man commits is outside the body, but the immoral man sins against his own body. Or do you not know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit who is in you, whom you have from God, and that you are not your own? Wow. What beautiful passages. And we could dwell on any one of those and spend our whole class time, but I'm not going to do that because I want him to lump the thoughts together here for a second. Let me give you a scenario. There was a young man one time who was being very careful about his media habits. I mean, he was really being focused on what it is, as far as video games that he would play, or movies that he would watch. And he was real careful about TV shows, or music that he would listen to. I mean, he was an exceptional young man that was just focused on trying to be a godly person. And so he was really doing good at it. And, but as time went on, he started to think that, some of the new popular songs were really catchy. And the tunes were really cool. And so as a result of that, he started to think it wouldn't matter if he listened to that one, even though he knew the lyrics weren't all that great. And later on, some of his friends were playing some video games that before he really questioned, but they were having so much fun that, well, one of them occasionally wouldn't hurt. Now, you see, just like I did when I read about it, that he is slowly getting himself to justify some of the things that he was being really careful about. But now they're just not quite as bad as they once were in his thinking. And the next thing you know, he's being entertained by shows on television that at first he wouldn't even dream of watching. And so, he would laugh at the inappropriate content. It was no longer offensive to him. And he didn't think twice about some of the immoral lifestyles that were brought up by the characters. And so he was getting caught up in the world of media that has been devil influenced for some time. Now, let's say that he comes to you for Christian advice. And you guys come up with 3 options for him. And the first one is, well, you can keep up your new media habits. Well, the positive is he would just keep enjoying the things that he likes. The negative is, he'd keep digesting content that's just not good for a person that's trying to live the Christian life. Then you come up with option 2, and you say, well, we're just going to limit our media intake. And so the positive is he's not going to be influenced as much by the TV and the music and the video games that are inappropriate. But the negative is he's still going to be digesting more than he should. So you come up with option 3, and that is completely cut out the new habits that he's been developing. And the positive to that is he's going to get rid of a lot of sinful habits that he's starting to develop in his life, and he's going to have more time to develop on the things that are holy and right. And the negative is he's going to miss many things that a lot of his friends are enjoying. Well, what should he do? He knows what option is the right one. I mean, he knows option 1 is not a valid option in light of the scriptures that we just read and that he's read before. And so he knows that's not the right option. And so Christians are supposed to flee immorality and not allow it to be part of their life. So option 2 would be just kind of like running away from it, but not really doing away with it. So he needs to choose option 3, the hardest one, but the one that God helps us with. Isn't it amazing? We might have to set aside some of the forms of media that have become just habits for us. And maybe if we do so, we'll have more time for that which is holy. Maybe we'll have more time for prayer, more time to be with other Christians, more time to be into the Word of God. More time to be in Bible study. You know, if I was the devil, and I'm not, please don't look at me that way. But if I was, one of the things that I would really go after people is through media. I read one time, you know, that 90% of the people in Hollywood, the screenwriters, the producers, the directors, the actors, grew up going to church. Today, 5% attend. Can you imagine being in a community where everybody is encouraged not to attend, and the major influence is not Christian living? And so if I was going to influence America in a great way, I'd go after the media. You know, it's really kind of interesting that when the Bible tells us that we're to put on our spiritual armor, you know, over in Galatians chapter 5, and we've all read that so many times that we just practically have it memorized and under our belts for sure. And that is that, you know, we're supposed to be strong in the Lord and in the strength of his might. And we put on that armor so that we'll be able to stand against the schemes of the devil. Have you ever thought how much media is a scheme of his? You know, I'm a fan of detective shows, and so I see a lot of murders. Too many. But the best part I like is that they are able to hunt down the killer and take him to trial and send him off to prison. The trouble of it is it's unrealistic, and that's because they do it all in 30 minutes or an hour at most. And in real life, they don't solve crimes in an hour. You know, sometimes there's murders, you know, it may take a day, a week, a month, sometimes years to be able to solve a murder in real life. And so it's unrealistic. But imagine, you know, when we're supposed to put on the armor so that we know the schemes of the devil. Our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the powers, against the world forces of this darkness, against the spiritual forces of wickedness in the heavenly places. So take up the full armor of God. You know, Paul's charge is really clear, isn't it? That one of the foundational things that you and I do every day is we put on our spiritual armor, because there's a spiritual battle going on in my life and in the lives of people all around us. So it's foundational to put on that armor so we can stand against the schemes of the devil and stand against spiritual forces of wickedness. Wow. What a picture the Bible gives us right here. To be prepared for the battle. He tells us to put on truth and righteousness. He tells us to make sure that our feet are covered with the gospel of peace. The helmet of salvation is a must. And the sword of the Spirit, I mean, wow, that's to defend us and to attack. And in the midst of all of that armor, Paul defines the shield of faith in verse 16 that we put up against the flaming arrows of Satan that he hurls at us. My question is, what does that look like in America? Because the Bible's clear, and I really do understand it. In Hebrews chapter 4 and verse 12, which, by the way, if you did see in your bulletin, we're going to be starting a study on Hebrews on Wednesdays, starting the first of the year. But the Bible claims that, that the Bible is living and active. It's not just an ancient book that a lot of people put up on the shelf, and maybe it gets a little dusty if it stays there too long. It's living. It's active. So what does it mean when that living, active book says, take up the shield of faith? Because the devil's going to be throwing some flaming arrows at you. He's going to be launching some missiles at you. And they're going to be coming in, and if you forgot to pick up your shield of faith, boom! And sometimes your faith is shattered. Where are they coming from? What do they look like today? Are we to assume that Satan is stuck back in some day wearing sandals? That he hasn't kept up with what tempts people and deceives people today? I mean, does he even know what's going on in our society and what we're so wrapped up in? Is it possible that the war being waged today against those who claim to be Christian men and women is not going on? That we can be at ease because that battle happened a long time ago? No, he's still after you. He still hates God and wants to pluck every person he can out of God's hand. He's after you, he's after me, and he's after us in the same way that the Bible has made so clear to us, because we can go all the way back to Genesis and see what he did when he was tempting Eve in the beginning. And we go back there and we see that in the garden, he tempted Eve with a fruit that was delightful to her eyes. Well, you want to tempt Eve? Look at this, how beautiful this is. Don't you and I like beautiful things? Oh, yeah. And so he deceived her with what was delightful to her eyes. And we think of Satan's arrows today, and we might assume that we might recognize what Satan is doing and be prepared when he puts something in front of us that looks delightful to our eyes. What could we get focused on? What could we yield to that looks delightful to our eyes? Remember the little kid song we used to sing when I was young anyway? Be careful, little eyes, what you see. Oh, be careful, little eyes, what you see. There's a Father up above looking down in tender love. Oh, be careful, little eyes, what you see. Oh, be careful, little ears, what you hear. Oh, be careful, little ears, what you hear. There's a Father up above looking down in tender love. Oh, be careful, little ears, what you hear. It's more than a kid song, isn't it? Yes.
Song, but I think the worst one is, be careful, little mouth, what you say. Be careful, little mouth, what you say.
I think the biggest missile that Satan throws at us is media. I really think it's a giant. Do you know that people between age 8 and 18, at least the figures that I have, spend 8 hours and 33 minutes a day in media? Now, I don't know who the people are who study these things. This was the Kaiser Family Foundation that did this study, and they're talking about time they spend on the phone, time they spend on the computer, time they spend watching TV, going to movies. I mean, all of that stuff right here. But it has increased 4 hours in the last 20 years. I know technology has gotten bigger and better and all of that. But I mean, think about how much our teenagers are influenced by the things that go on around them. Think about how many young people, not just young people, adults too, have cell phones. Think how many of us, by the way, have other things, iPads and other players that we listen to, and laptops, and I mean, wow, and access to the internet, and most homes have more than one television. I've got one that we don't even operate on. It collects dust. I mean, wow. And the video game consoles, and I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on. And so we're in a culture with this big information highway, and in some ways it's really good. Do you know I don't have to go visit China to see the Great Wall and other places in China? I can just go on the internet and say China. And I can do all kinds of Bible research. I can do all kinds of wonderful things that I'm interested in. But wow, there's also the scary part. And I don't have to tell you, you know. You know how scary it can become. Think about television alone for a moment, and how the devil has influenced that. Any of you remember a show when you were a kid that your parents wouldn't let you watch? There was one that they knew the content just wasn't appropriate. If you're old enough, you probably had parents who said, you boys aren't going to watch that one. So you either pick another one of the 4 channels that we had. Telling my age, aren't I? Yes.
Which really brings up a good question. You just said it. All of us have a television. Many of us have more than one. Can you turn that on any time of the day and not be influenced by the negative, the terrible things that the devil is throwing at us every time you turn it on?
Yeah.
What should we do?
We're going to talk about that in just a minute.
It's easy to talk about it, but how many of us are doing it?
Oh, yeah, but we know it takes a lot of self-control, and we got to pray about it. But Don was just talking about how much, we're affected by TV commercials. And I got to tell you a short story real quick. One summer in college, I worked at the RCA factory in my hometown, which doesn't exist anymore, by the way. They went elsewhere and changed their name, and you can't even get an RCA television. But one of the jobs, I was a vacation relief. I would do different jobs for 2 weeks while men were on vacation. And one job was to put knobs on the televisions by the code that was crened on the picture tube. So as it was coming down the conveyor, it would say, for me, the code number to put RCA stickers and knobs. The next one coming down would say, put on Sears, stickers and knobs. And the next one would come down and it would say Motorola. and I'd put, stickers and knobs. And the next one would come down, they'd tell me another one. I'd go home, and I would laugh really hard when a TV commercial would come on and say, GE makes the best color television in the world. No, they didn't, because back then, the only color television made was at the RCA factory, and I put GE stickers on some of those I mean, I learned real quick that advertising lies. I mean, it's unbelievable, So as a young man home for the college, I learned a real quick lesson on advertising that you don't believe any of it. And, buy what you want to and forget the silly ad. All right, yes.
Show, I think, a little while back, and I don't watch it now, I haven't been, but I know, I hear, some of my friends talk about it. It's called The View, okay? And what they do is they have 4 or 5 women on that show, and they like to get a conversation going about, most recent things happening with movie stars or whatever. Well, there was a girl on there that was hired on, and she's a Christian-minded girl. She's a Christian-minded girl, and she would kind of defense them. I mean, put her for defense against the other girls that were on there. And she ended up quitting because what happens is they tell these girls they have to lie. They have to lie to make an interest. And I never knew it, but I was on a jury once, a criminal jury, and I'll tell you what, the people that got up on the stand actually lied. They're professional liars. It's just so sick. That's so sick, Don. That's what we're dealing with, just one thing.
Sure. I'm old enough, Lila, to remember when Fox took the FCC to court. They were trying to keep profanity off television, and Fox won the court case that would allow profanity to come on television. And so as a result of that, I mean, in no time flat, they just started using every word you can imagine that would probably embarrass some sailors, on television. And the interesting thing of it is, instantly, it came on what was called primetime television. And, and then the family hour, that 8 to 9 hour slot when families would watch TV before you put the kids to bed. I mean, practically every program had profanity in it. As soon as they won their court case where the FCC forbid the profanity being on television. And so, it's just interesting to me that people would fight for that. And so then they would come on. That was when MTV came on, and Jersey Shores and Hard Times. And I mean, the scenarios and the comedians, I mean, everything was just trash. It's unbelievable what was going on. And the American Society of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, they said that kids were watching 812 acts of violence every hour. They counted on different channels. And children, the primary target, were seeing 20 acts of violence per hour in cartoons. Now tell me, Satan is not behind the men and women who put that in our television sets. It wasn't godly people who did it. It wasn't people who wanted our families to be strong and healthy. And then before I run out of time, we got, town. Don't run me out of town yet. Don't run me out of town. Yeah. Give me a few more minutes. How has music changed in your lifetime? And not just the tune. Yeah, the lyrics in the music. Oh, I mean, it's just unbelievable what some of the top songs are. And the artists and the attire, or lack of it. Yes.
I can't believe what I'm missing. I only turn the TV on at 6 o'clock to get the news. Obviously, all you're talking about, I am not aware.
Good.
And I don't miss it. I don't want to know it. I want to know what's going on in the world. I feel kind of that all of us should stay informed, but I don't think we need all that noise and corruption.
Yeah.
Turn it off. Just turn
Yeah.
it off.
I remember one person arguing with me about how that they like the music, they don't care about the lyric. And I said, well, then buy it without the lyric.
Or just hum. Just sing your stuff.
I mean, you know, the music and the lyrics are so suggestive that, you know, and they feed our minds. Let's get back to what our heart and our minds are thinking. You know, whatsoever is pure, whatsoever is true and noble. I mean, we got to be, you know, thinking about what we're feeding our minds on a regular basis. Yes.
I have Sirius radio on my car radio, and if you listen to the 50s, you can get the 50s station, and it's all music in the 50s. It's all clean, there's no language, no suggestive stuff. You go to the 60s, and it's like they tuned.
Day and night.
It's just 70s, you know, and it's not getting any better. It's just amazing to me that how we've come in my lifetime, where we've come from music that was pure and, you know, wholesome to what it is today.
Sure. Yeah, definitely music is not Perry Como anymore. It's not even Elvis Presley. And I know I'm talking in generalities. I know there's some good, you know, musicians out there who are trying to clean up the music world. I mean, I know you know you can pick and choose and find some people who are really careful about their lyrics, but they're just far and few between because of the devil's influence. And you know, you got little girls who are mimicking some of these stars, you know, because they watch them on TV or they see them, you know, on the internet. Yes.
You want to put a good filter on your TV, put your grandbabies in the same room.
Ah.
There are things on there that you might not notice if you're there by yourself. But when they're in the room, they slap you right in the face.
Yeah, that would do it. My little brother would amen that because he's got so many grandchildren and some of them really little that I doubt if they even have their TV on unless they're watching a ball game. Well, yeah, even then you got to tell them to leave the room during the beer commercials and everything else. Oh, yes. Another thing we got to bring up before our time goes away is look at the influence of the internet. You know, everybody nowadays who has a cell phone has an internet, you know, connection. And so, I mean, wow. You know, the accessibility that we have nowadays, you know, compared to teenagers 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Yes.
I just want to say that it's been bad in the past with the internet and not knowing what is truth and what isn't truth. It's just getting worse now with this AI stuff.
Yeah.
You have people that look at things and think it's real. It's not real. It's
No.
not truth.
Can't tell what's real and
You
what's not.
can't tell, no. Can't.
No, it just takes you out of reality. It really does. There was a survey done by Common Sense Media, and they found this regarding a lot of the young people using internet. Said 37% have made fun of other students at school. When they asked the parents, they said 18% think that's taking place. 1 in 5 teenagers, that's 19%, say they have been harassed online or cyberbullied. 16% have posted false information or lies about other people. 4% of parents think that takes place. 28% have shared personal information about themselves that they would not normally share in public. 16% of the parents think that takes place. 25% have created a profile with a false identity. 12% of the parents think kids do that. 24% have hacked into somebody else's social network account. 13 have posted naked or semi-naked photos or videos of themselves or others online. 2% of the parents think that kids would do such a thing. 24% have sent or posted pictures of somebody else that they were not sure if the other person would have wanted that shared. 18% have pretended to be an adult while chatting with somebody online. 8% of parents think their kids would even do that. 39% have posted something that later they regretted. And 20% of parents believe that even takes place. Now, I've said all that to say that if I was a parent, I'd probably be on the naive side. Oh, kids wouldn't do that. No. Yeah, no, surely they wouldn't do. My kids wouldn't even dream that up. But well, we got to know what young people are doing on the internet. Are they being bullied? Are they sharing photos? Are they pretending to be somebody else? Wow. You know, when Justin Bieber a long time ago put Baby on the internet, it had 406 million views and over 1 million views per day. He put on a video, Baby, his song, and it had 1 million hits, over 1 million hits a day, till they stopped counting at 406 million. Do kids get on the video on the internet? Yeah. You know, the internet has a lot of good going for it. But we can't forget that there's a harmful side.
Something happens in society, like right now, they don't know the results of it for like 20 years down the road. Okay, the search they do or the research they do takes time with us human beings. They have just now come out, WMUZ is a real good Christian station. The doctors on there tell the results. Right now, when you go to a grocery store, you'll see a little girl or a little boy in a buggy, and they'll be on the internet. They'll be on the cell phone, playing a toy, whatever they're doing doesn't matter. The brain that's developing in these little kids, it doesn't develop, it takes stages of development, our whole body. So from about 3 to about 7 or 8, or even a little younger, they're not developing even. They're not even developing. Then there's another part of the brain that develops from 7 to, I'd say, like, I think it was 9 or 10, whatever. And then it goes on to about 17 or 18 or whatever, from 20. But anyhow, what I'm saying is it bothers my mind and very, very makes me disturbed is the fact that this will never come back. It's like an alcoholic. An alcoholic that drinks, the brain cells die, they don't replenish themselves. Well, this is what's happening with the cell phones with these children is it's not developing their brain. What they'll do is they'll depend on this technology stuff all their life because that part of their brain hasn't made what God made them. I just think that is so crazy to think that parents aren't aware of these cell phones. I'm not paying, if I had 6 kids or 5 kids or 3 and I worked and I came home and I don't want to be sick, I would probably, basically hand them a cell phone and just, they're happy, or the TV.
That's the problem.
I know, Peggy,
Adult Christians need to understand the spiritual warfare that's going on for our kids and our families. The devil is roaming. He's roaming.
Mhm.
And we need that body of armor every minute of the day
Wisdom.
Yes.
to protect ourselves, to protect our parents, to protect our grandparents, to protect our children, and to protect the next generation to come.
Oh, absolutely right.
Well said, Peggy.
Yeah. Because all this is going on, whether we know about it or whether we don't know about it, it's going on. Do you know the average child sees their first pornography on the internet at 10 years old, and some younger, and some later. And with all of this going on, I mean, all this less than wholesome images and lyrics that are coming into our homes every single day, we shouldn't be surprised that people allow this into their eyes and their ears, and it impacts, on who they become. And Jesus pointed that out to us. Because he said in Matthew 15, he says, do you not understand that everything that goes into the mouth passes into the stomach and is eliminated? But the things that proceed out of the mouth come from the heart, and those defile the man. For out of the heart comes evil thoughts, murders, adulteries, fornications, theft, false witness, and slanders. Well, what do you think causes a person to lie all the time? What do you think causes a person to choose a sinful habit? What do you think causes a person to think murder in their heart even if they don't do it? Where's it all come from? Yes.
I was just going to make a comment about the heart because, the world wants you to follow your heart, follow your heart, follow your heart. And what does the Bible say? Guard your heart.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what that Christian armor is all about. Is guarding our heart. Do you remember the time when the Pharisees had an issue with Jesus and his disciples about, they weren't, they were eating without washing their hands? Now, can you imagine that being a big deal?
Well, I'm a germaphobe, so I think it's a big deal.
Oh, okay. All righty. Well, but you see, that's going to display itself on the outside, through your behavior and through your attitudes. But the Pharisees were so concerned about the outside, making it appear, clean by a customary practice, that they missed the most important message, and that's to make the inside heart clean in order that the person is clean. In other words, what you see in a person's life stems from what's inside their heart. You work on the inside, and the outside will take care of itself. That's what the thing that Solomon talked about in Proverbs 4:23 when he says, watch over your heart with all diligence, for from it flows the springs of life. I know this is all foundational, but can you imagine the high levels of violence that could stop if the shield of faith was up and everybody was guarding their hearts? Do you know the television shows operate by the money that's brought in by commercials? If you want to voice your opinion, write the commercials. Tell them you'd like for them to advertise a cleaner program. It's the only, we're only one voice. But really guard what we watch in front of our young people. Guard what they watch when they're too young to make wise decisions. In Matthew 22, I want to share this in closing. When the Pharisees heard that Jesus had silenced the Sadducees, they gathered themselves together, and one of them, a lawyer, asked him a question, testing him. Teacher, which is the great commandment in the law? And he said unto them, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind. You guys are good. Thank you for being here today.